if you have ever tried to, force yourself to go to the gym or maybe stick to some strict new diet using just pure white-knuckled willpower, you were practically guaranteed to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the medical community actually knows exactly why. So welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to completely rewire how you think about building new routines. We are looking at a really fascinating, honestly, kind of disruptive paper from the British Journal of General Practice. It's titled Making Health Habitual.
Right.
And the hook here is that it argues almost everything we've been taught about discipline and motivation is, well, it's targeting the completely wrong part of our brains.
It really is. I mean, traditional advice essentially sets us up for failure. It relies on a cognitive mechanism that is just biologically designed to tire out.
Wow, designed to tire out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We tend to treat behavior change as this, test of moral character or mental toughness right now. But psychologically, it's really just an engineering problem. We're using the wrong tools for the job.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because trying to change your life using conscious willpower alone is, well, it's like trying to push a 2-ton car up a steep hill.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like, you can do it for a little while, you can grit your teeth, you plant your feet, and push with everything you have. But eventually, inevitably, your muscles are just going to give out.
Oh, totally.
You'll get tired, you'll let go, and that car is going to roll right back down to the bottom of the hill. So this deep dive is really about how to stop pushing, figure out where the ignition is, and, finally turn on the engine.
Taking that car analogy a step further, the difference between pushing the car and turning on the engine perfectly illustrates the two distinct operating systems in our brain.
Right, the whole System 1 and System 2 thing.
Exactly. When you visit a clinic and a doctor gives you what they call brief advice.
Like telling you to cut out saturated fats.
Yeah, or telling you to start jogging to avoid diabetes. They are appealing to what the psychologist Daniel Kahneman famously defined as System 2. And this is the conscious, deliberative, really slow, and highly analytical part of our cognition. It's the part of you that understands, long-term consequences and logical arguments.
And it is also the part of you that gets completely exhausted after a long day at work. I mean, I think of System 2 like driving a manual stick-shift car in heavy stop-and-go traffic.
Oh, that is stressful just thinking about it.
Right. You're constantly monitoring the clutch, the gas, the brakes, looking at the cars merging around you. It requires your constant, unbroken attention. If you look away for a second, you stall. And that takes a massive amount of mental energy.
It really does. And what's fascinating here is the physical reality of that mental energy. I mean, System 2 is highly expensive for the brain to run.
Expensive in terms of calories.
Calories, attention, motivation, all of it. The paper highlights that any behavioral gains made using System 2 are highly transient. You simply cannot maintain a state of high alert and high motivation indefinitely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the stress of daily life, or just a poor night of sleep, or even just being hungry, that will drain that System 2 battery. And when the battery dies, the motivation wanes, and the new diet or the workout routine just collapses.
That was inevitable.
Right. The alternative is shifting the behavior to System 1. These are our automatic processes. They operate under the radar, triggering behaviors really quickly and efficiently without any conscious deliberation at all.
So System 1 is, it's like throwing that same car on cruise control on a completely empty, straight highway.
Perfect comparison.
You are still moving forward at 60 miles an hour, but the mental and physical effort of maintaining that speed is basically gone.
But wait, isn't healthcare all about educating patients on the why?
Well, yep.
If System 2 is so fragile, are we saying doctors should just stop explaining the risks of heart attacks to people?
No, not at all. Education is definitely vital, but we have to understand its specific limitations. Logical education is highly effective for the initiation phase of behavior change. Okay, the starting line.
Exactly. System 2 is what gets you to look in the mirror, process the doctor's warnings, and finally sign up for that gym membership. It gets you to buy the spinach instead of the potato chips on a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
But it is fundamentally terrible for maintenance. Once the initial fear of a heart attack fades or, the novelty of the new gym clothes wears off, that System 2 motivation evaporates. If you haven't transitioned that healthy behavior over to System 1 automaticity before the motivation runs out, you will abandon the routine.
Wow. Okay, so the goal is to get to System 1 as fast as possible. We need automaticity. We need to build a habit. But I feel like the word habit gets thrown around so casually to just mean, something I happen to do a lot.
Yeah, people use it very loosely, but the psychological definition of a habit is much more precise than the everyday usage. A habit isn't just a frequent behavior. It's a specific action that is triggered automatically by a contextual cue in your environment.
A contextual cue.
Right. Through repetition, the brain forms a learned association between the cue and the action, to the point where just encountering the cue makes the action initiate itself.
Okay, like the paper uses washing your hands after using the toilet as a prime example of this.
Yes, exactly.
The toilet itself is the contextual cue.
Yeah.
And washing your hands is the automatic action. Or putting on a seatbelt right after you get into a car.
That's a great one.
Right. Because you don't sit in the driver's seat, stare at the steering wheel, and have this deeply philosophical system to debate with yourself about the mortality statistics of car crashes.
You'd never get anywhere.
Yeah, you just reach over and pull the strap across your chest.
And you likely don't even remember putting the seatbelt on if someone asks you 5 minutes later. The cognitive load is essentially zero. The environment did the heavy lifting for you. The cue of sitting in the seat triggered the physical reflex.
So if that effortless reflex is the holy grail of behavior change, the question I think everyone wants answered is how long it actually takes to wire that into the brain.
Right, the timeline.
Because, for my entire life, I have been told it takes exactly 21 days to form a new habit. It's treated like this absolute law of physics in the self-help world.
Oh, and it's everywhere. But it is a pervasive cultural myth. The source paper actually traces exactly where it came from. The 21-day rule originates from a 1960 book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which was written by a plastic surgeon named Dr. Maxwell Maltz.
Wait, I have to process that.
Yeah.
The foundational timeline for building a fitness or diet routine comes from a plastic surgeon.
It does, yeah.
That is wild.
Dr. Maltz observed his patients after they had facial surgery or patients who had received amputations. And he noticed, purely anecdotally, that it took them about 21 days to adjust psychologically to their new appearance or for the feeling of a phantom limb to fade.
Oh, wow.
He was literally just documenting the time it takes to adjust to a new physical self-image. It had absolutely nothing to do with building an active daily behavioral routine.
That's great.
But the self-help industry of the time just latched onto that specific number, stripped it of all its original context, and marketed it as a scientific guarantee for habit formation.
That is an incredible game of cultural telephones. Think of millions of people beating themselves up because they couldn't stick to a treadmill routine after 3 weeks, all because of an observation about plastic surgery.
It's really unfortunate.
So what is the actual scientifically backed timeline for that cruise control to kick in?
Well, the paper relies heavily on a major study conducted by Philippa Lally and her colleagues. They didn't rely on anecdotes. They actually tracked individuals trying to build new health-promoting behaviors in real-world settings.
Okay.
They meticulously measured automaticity, asking participants to record when the behavior actually began to feel effortless and hard to skip. And they found that on average, it takes 66 days for a new habit to plateau into true automaticity.
66 days. Wow. Yeah. That is over 2 months of deliberate repetition.
And keep in mind, that is just the average. The data showed a really wide variance depending on the complexity of the task.
Like what kind of tasks?
So a simple low-friction action, like drinking a glass of water right after breakfast, that reached peak automaticity much faster than an elaborate high-friction routine, like trying to do 50 sit-ups every single morning.
That makes sense.
But as a baseline expectation, you are looking at roughly 10 weeks of daily repetition to fully transfer behavior from System 2 to System 1.
I was looking at the methodology of that Lally study.
Yeah.
And there's a detail in the data that I think is going to be a massive relief for anyone listening.
Oh, about the missed days.
Yes. They found that missing a single day does not derail the habit formation process. The associative learning in the brain doesn't just, reset to zero. If you miss a Tuesday, the automaticity gains simply resume right where they left off when you pick the behavior back up on Wednesday.
It's such an important point.
So missing one day isn't a moral failure that ruins the whole streak. It's just a blip in the data.
Exactly. Our modern culture is intensely obsessed with streaks. If you use a language learning app or a fitness tracker and you break a 30-day streak, The software often penalizes you.
Right, the little counter goes back to zero.
Yeah, and it makes you feel devastated, like all your previous work was erased. But neurologically, that is completely false. The physical neural pathway you are building between the cue and the action does not vanish just because you got sick or had to work late one evening.
Okay, so knowing that the timeline is closer to 66 days and knowing that a missed day isn't the end of the world, we really need to look at the exact strategy required during those 2 months. Because here's where the paper reveals that the standard advice we get from like fitness magazines actually actively prevents habit formation.
It does. Typical lifestyle advice heavily emphasizes variation. If you want to start eating healthier, you're told to eat different fruits at different meals, look up new recipes, mix up your workout routine so you do cardio on Mondays, weights on Tuesdays, yoga on Wednesdays.
Right.
The entire goal of variation is to stave off boredom.
Which makes perfect logical system 2 sense. If I get bored, I lose motivation. If I lose motivation, I quit. Therefore, I should keep the routine spicy and exciting.
But psychologically, variation is highly effortful. Every time you change the context or change the action, you are forcing your brain to make a brand new decision. You are demanding that System 2 wake up, analyze the situation, and exert energy.
And we know System 2 gets tired.
Exactly. The paper is emphatic on this point. Variation is fundamentally incompatible with the development of automaticity. To build a habit, you must repeat the chosen behavior in the exact same context, triggered by the exact same cue every single time.
But doesn't doing the exact same thing every day get incredibly boring? I mean, eating the same apple at the same desk at the same time every afternoon? I know people push back on that kind of rigidity.
They do. It sounds tedious.
But as I was reading the breakdown of associative learning, it really clicked for me. Variation is like trying to carve a path in the woods by walking a completely different route every day.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
You might enjoy the changing scenery, but you never leave a mark. To actually make a trail, you have to walk the exact same path to wear down the grass day after day until you physically wear it down into a permanent dirt trail.
Wearing down that path is the perfect metaphor for strengthening a neural circuit. If you wander all over the woods to keep things interesting, the grass just springs right back up behind you. You have to embrace the repetitive boredom to forge the associative link.
So to successfully wear down that path over 66 days, what are the rules for selecting the behavior in the first place? We can't just pick something massive like, run 5 miles every morning.
Well, this raises an important question, right? How do we set these goals? And the researchers outlined 2 critical principles. First is the concept of autonomy. The individual must choose the target behavior themselves.
Okay.
If a doctor dictates a specific diet or a spouse demands you go to the gym, the behavior feels like an external obligation. Choosing a target based on its personal value to you makes it much more likely to stick, and it builds self-efficacy.
Right. It builds your confidence that you actually have control over your own actions. Like if you successfully integrate a tiny habit, like walking 1 extra bus stop on your commute, you prove to yourself that you are capable of change.
You master the mechanism of change on a small scale before applying it to a large scale. And the second critical principle is the additive rule. This is vital. You cannot form a habit of not doing something.
See, I think this is where so many people, definitely myself included, go wrong. Think about how many times you've told yourself, I am not going to eat junk food on the couch today, or I am not going to scroll on my phone in bed.
Oh, constantly.
And so what happens? You sit on the couch, and because you haven't given your brain an alternative action, you just obsess over the junk food. You are sitting there burning massive amounts of System 2 energy, actively fighting the urge, which is just exhausting.
Exactly. You cannot build an associative link with an absence. Breaking an entrenched existing bad habit requires completely different, highly effortful psychological interventions. Within the framework of habit formation, you must create a new additive behavior instead.
So add, don't subtract.
Right. Instead of telling yourself, I won't eat fried snacks at 3 p.m., your goal must be, when the 3 p.m. alarm goes off, I will eat an apple. You have to give the brain a tangible physical action to link to the contextual cue. You are essentially trying to overwrite the old software with a new program.
Okay, let's transition from the theory to the real-world application here. If you follow this rigid consistency, picking a small, self-chosen additive behavior, and you grind it out for about 2 months, what actually happens? The researchers map this process out into 3 distinct phases, right?
They do. The journey to automaticity follows initiation, learning, and stability. In the initiation phase, you select your additive behavior and you anchor it to a highly stable contextual cue in your environment.
Like the 3 p.m. alarm.
Exactly. Then you enter the learning phase. This is that roughly 66-day window of daily repetition. The source paper actually provides a very simple 10-week tick sheet.
Just a piece of
It's
paper.
just a physical piece of paper where patients simply check a box every time they perform the behavior in the presence of the cue. Finally, you cross into the stability phase where the associative link is fully forged and the behavior requires no conscious effort.
And they tested this exact 10-week process in a clinical weight loss study, and the results are honestly staggering. This wasn't some study where they locked people in a lab. It was an 8-week real-world trial with volunteers who wanted to lose weight.
Real people, real lives.
Yeah. They gave the intervention group a very brief leaflet detailing 10 simple additive daily behaviors. Things like drinking water with meals or walking for 15 minutes after dinner. No extreme caloric restriction, no intense personal training sessions. Just small behaviors attached to daily cues monitored with a tick sheet.
And the contrast with the control group is striking. After the initial 8 weeks, the intervention group using the habit formation strategy lost an average of 2 kilograms. The control group, receiving standard advice, lost only 0.4 kilograms.
Wow.
But the real validation of the System 1 theory emerged in the long-term follow-up. At 32 weeks, so more than 7 months later, the intervention group had lost an average of 3.8 kilograms. They didn't just maintain their initial weight loss, the benefits actually compounded over time.
Because they were no longer rely on willpower. The engine was running on its own.
Exactly. The qualitative data showed this perfectly. When they asked the participants, they reported that their new behaviors had become second nature. The effort had vanished.
Here's where it gets really interesting. One of the participants in that study described the new habits as worming their way into your brain.
It's such a vivid description.
I love that imagery. Worming their way into your brain. They explicitly stated that they felt quite strange if they didn't perform the behavior. That is the ultimate goal here. You want to make your healthy choices literally feel weird to skip. You want not eating the apple after lunch to feel as deeply uncomfortable as going to bed without brushing your teeth.
And that uncomfortable feeling is cognitive dissonance. When the brain expects an automatic action to follow a specific cue and the action doesn't happen, it registers as an error. You have successfully manipulated your own neurobiology so that doing the right thing is actually the path of least resistance.
Okay, but wait, I want to throw a wrench in this because I see a very modern practical trap here.
Yeah.
This entire framework relies heavily on a stable contextual cue. What if my routine isn't stable? What if I pick a cue like when I get to the office, I will walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator, but then I work from home 3 days a week?
That's a great point. If your cue is fragile, the habit will be fragile. The source material emphasizes that the context you select must be an event or a time of day that you encounter consistently, regardless of the external chaos of your schedule.
Oh, so the office is out.
Arriving at the office is a terrible cue for someone with a variable work location. You need inevitable anchor points. After I finish my morning coffee, during my scheduled lunch break, immediately after I brush my teeth at night.
Oh, I see.
These are routine events that occur whether you are commuting to an office, working in your sweatpants in the living room, or traveling for a weekend vacation. If the cue is inevitable, the trigger is inevitable, and the habit can be reinforced every single day.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Let's bring all of this theory down to earth for you listening right now. If you want to change your life, you have to stop relying on your motivation. Stop burning out your System 2 willpower because it will always fail you eventually.
Yes, 100%.
Pick one small self-chosen additive behavior. Do not try to make a habit out of not doing something. Start doing something new. Tie that new behavior to an unavoidable, rock-solid daily anchor point. Embrace the profound boredom of repetition. Do it in the exact same context every single day to wear down that path in the woods.
Wear down the grass.
Exactly. Forgive yourself if you miss a Tuesday, because the associative learning doesn't disappear. And finally, strap in for about 66 days until that behavior worms its way into your brain.
And, when you look at behavior change strictly through the lens of environmental design, it shifts the burden completely away from our fragile willpower. And if we connect this reliance on our environment to the bigger picture, it actually introduces a fascinating implication about major life disruptions.
Oh, like what? Like, if our habits are entirely dependent on our environmental triggers, what happens when we experience a major life disruption?
Exactly. Think about moving to a new house or starting a new job in a completely new city. Suddenly, the kitchen layout is different. The commute is different. every single contextual cue you have relied on for years vanishes overnight.
Oh, wow, that's true.
Does your hard-earned automaticity disappear with them? Likely, yes. But conversely, could a sudden change of scenery actually be the perfect secret weapon to wipe the slate clean and start fresh? If the old cues are completely gone, your old negative habits have nothing left to trigger them.
So a major life disruption wipes the slate completely clean.
It presents a rare, frictionless window to consciously design entirely new automatic responses from scratch.
A completely new environment means a completely empty highway for your cruise control. It's a total system reboot. So, the next time you find yourself gritting your teeth, exhaustedly pushing that heavy car up the hill, remember, you don't need stronger leg muscles and you don't need more motivation. You just need to figure out where the contextual key is, turn the ignition, and let the engine do the work. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.